And that was President Trump and members of his cabinet announcing an initial $11 billion in aid to help farmers affected by the ongoing trade war with China. Now, until a recent meeting between Trump and Xi Jinping, the Chinese buyers had completely stopped buying American soybeans. That left American farmers in a fix. China is the world's largest soybean market, so now the Trump administration has stepped in with help in the form of a one-time payment that farmers will need to apply for. And with us now is Daniel Lacalle, chief economist at the Tressis hedge fund, managing over $8 billion in assets. Daniel, great to see you as always. Daniel, any farmers we speak with say they just want an opportunity to make a living. President Trump put it, they just want a level playing field. They don't want government assistance per se. As a free market guy, as you are, where do you stand on this idea of government aid in this specific case?
Thank you very much, Paul. I think the problem with farming is very, very complicated because if you think about it, the issue all over the world is that farming is so overprotected and it's so intervened by governments that we cannot talk about a real free market. We're talking about an environment in which, for example, through so-called environmental regulations, through enormous subsidies, etc., the competition against the United States is so unfair that you have, for example, the impossibility, as we have heard in the conference that just finished, that some of the farmers have the impossibility of, for example, exporting rice to countries that actually would demand it and continue to demand it, which is affecting prices of food all over the world in a very negative way because it's making food more expensive and at the same time it's hurting U.S. farmers. So this aid is something that is supportive, but it's also realistic. It's realistic because we need to understand that in the European Union, the level of interventionism and the level of subsidization of so many different areas in agriculture and farming is enormous, but also very, very aggressive in Brazil, in India, in China. Think about this. The countries that have the largest trade barriers against the United States in agriculture and farming are those that are actually called the BRICS. They got together. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Those countries have so many barriers, not just trade barriers like tariffs, but regulatory, legal, investor insecurity, so many different layers, including indirect taxes, alleged environmental or local content protection laws. It's absolutely amazing. So I think that what they're trying to achieve with this measure is first to level the playing field. It's not logical that U.S. agriculture and farming businesses are facing an environment in which many of them are going to die because of working capital bills, because they cannot sell their product when the product is demanded, and at the same time, they're putting barriers elsewhere and calling it free trade.
We saw this in this press conference, in this roundtable just now, Daniel. On the one hand, the farmers complaining about environmental regulations around equipment, which is pushing up costs for them. And at the same time, like you mentioned, these BRICS countries, these poorer countries gathering together, and as they put it in the conference, dumping rice and other produce on America and in Puerto Rico, other areas, which, as you put it just now, is not allowing for a level playing field between America and these foreign countries. Now, one phrase that was used was food security is national security. You see it this way?
Obviously, everybody sees it that way. Everybody in the world sees it that way. To the point that what we have seen, for example, we just talked about environmental restrictions. The level of environmental restrictions in the European Union is so severe that it's literally just built to prevent U.S. companies from selling. And in the case of agriculture, is particularly damaging, considering that a lot of the things that are being limited are not just elements that one would consider that could be harmful, but things that then, and this is to me the most infuriating thing, is that on the one hand, there's these enormous trade and regulatory burdens against the United States, but then they lift it when it's time to get deals with Morocco, with Turkey, with Ukraine, or with Algeria. It's amazing. It is truly amazing. So is it an issue of national security? Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. Everybody in the world is talking about energy and food security. And the United States has the quality and the availability and the affordability factors in farming and agriculture that make other countries very nervous, but you cannot just think that they can export all of their excess capacity whenever they want at the prices that Americans pay for and then put barriers against U.S. goods.
Well, on that point, Daniel, during the roundtable, President Trump said none of this aid would be possible without Trump's tariff agenda. Now, some who are critical of that agenda, you could say very free market-oriented economists, for example, they're calling for zero tariffs, zero subsidies. One argument is that no one person or group or government can analyze the market and make decisions on something as dynamic and as broad as the price of goods and services. What do you make of that?
No, as a free market defender, I completely agree. There should be zero subsidies and zero tariffs. So does President Trump. But it should be zero subsidies and zero tariffs everywhere. The problem is that we need to live in the real world. And when we live in the real world and we understand that the trade deficit of the United States, that the imbalances that we just heard in the press conference with farming and agriculture, all these things are not made, have not happened due to the fair competition between different open economies and free companies, but very carefully thought out and very carefully planned through decades of choosing winners and losers, in which the entire way of thinking about it was let China do whatever it wants because they need to grow. Let the developing economies can do whatever they want because they need to grow. And let's put all the burdens on the United States. All of that has resulted in worse food availability, worse food affordability, and more importantly, a much worse trading environment. So right now it's about leveling the playing field. Would we want zero subsidies and zero tariffs all over the world? I absolutely agree. But if you want to start, you cannot start in the United States. You have to go to the European Union, you have to go to France, you have to go to China, go to India, start talking about subsidies and tariffs, and then come to the United States, and then we all reach free market agreements.
But on that point, Daniel, when you think of the Chinese regime, whether it's their targeting of American soybean farmers, which we heard about on the round table, or recently threatening to withhold U.S. access to critical minerals, it seems the Chinese regime has mapped out America's pain points extremely well. What do you make of the Trump administration's strategy for countering this?
Well, I think that obviously, on the one hand, China is looking at a competitor and checking for its weak points and trying to make the most out of those weak points. What the Trump administration is trying to do is to strengthen those areas that had been weakened, not because of competition, not because of lack of entrepreneurial strength, not because of technology or because of machinery or availability of human capital, but because of unfair trade practices. And therefore, I think that what we are seeing right now, and it's very evident in the figures, the macroeconomic figures, is that strategy is working. The one that didn't work was the one in which administration after administration in the United States looked at China from the following perspective, which was, oh, we understand that they're not following the same rules. We understand that they're not following the same practices. They're not doing the same things in terms of quality, in terms of working capital, in terms of their availability of product and the rights of workers. We understand understand that. Let's let them do whatever they want because they grow a lot and we will benefit from it. Well, it did not generate either a benefit for the United States nor from the rest of the world. It's interesting to see how President Macron in France now has recognized that President Trump was right. And when he visited China, said to Prime Minister Xi Jinping, said, look, this is impossible to sustain in the future. We cannot have a 300 billion euro trade deficit with China and constantly eroding our food, industrial and manufacturing security. Guess what? Finally, he recognized that there is a very difficult environment to talk about free trade when there is not a level playing field.
We see, Daniel, how difficult it is to reverse some of these very damaging policies as the Trump administration tries to rebuild American manufacturing, for example. Daniel, I've got about 1 minute. We heard at the roundtable the Trump administration announcing a task force or a couple task forces to investigate price fixing in the food industry. They singled out global corporations. Do you think there's much of that going on globally, price fixing?
I don't know, but investigate it. It's absolutely fine. If you don't have anything to fear, the investigation will yield no relevant results. There may be no effect. But what I say to the Trump administration every time that I have a minute that they give me to talk about economics is very simple. The way to solve what is happening in America with food prices and with the farming and agriculture sector is by deregulation. You need to deregulate, eliminate all these completely nonsensical regulations that have burdened the farming and the agricultural sector, that have demolished the manufacturing sector, that have made machinery more expensive, that have made investment more risky. And once you do that, which is not just changing, it's eliminating all these regulations, things are going to improve very, very quickly.
Daniel Lacalle at the Tressis hedge fund. Daniel, as always, thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.